was saying that half of their streams users include interactivity. That is consumers are interacting with the streams. Half.
Hi everybody. For today's episode of A Guy with a Scarf, I have the pleasure to have with me my old friend Ciaran Quinn. Hi Ciaran.
Carlo, great to see you.
Do I ever say your name properly? I never know.
Just anybody, unless they're Irish, say my name properly. You are very, very close, and sometimes you
very
get
close.
Yeah. Ciaran.
So, as we spend so much time working together or close by, I think your journey in sport tech and media is quite a fascinating one. So, where did you start?
In sport tech and media? My first thing in sports was going way back to FIFA World Cup 1994, where I ended up licensing some images from ISL. You know, the infamous, at the time famous, then became infamous ISL. Long, different story. But when it first came into tech, into sports tech, I guess, back in 2000, I had co-founded a company called VEO. Where we helped a lot of U.S. digital companies enter Europe for the first time. That was from 1997 to 2002. The background is a UK public company bought it. It was an incredibly messy time. Two of us went on the board of this public company, myself, my other key partner, Kevin. And the dot-com boom became a bust, which I know you remember because you were heavily involved before that. Yeah. And a year later, after that sale, we actually bought that company back from the PLC to clean up, frankly, the mess they'd made of it. So we cleaned it up, and a couple of years later, 2003, we decided we were ready to move on and liquidated assets successfully. And I was over in Silicon Valley. I live in France. I've lived here for decades now, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And the former CEO of OpenTV, a guy called Jan Steenkamp, had just become, You remember Jan?
Yeah.
He just became CEO of an early DRM company as part of the Naspers group. Big, they're the ones who own QQ, Tencent, MultiChoice, MIH, lots of, very, very, now a very, very big company. Early DRM company, and he asked me to head Europe for him. And it's funny, he told me that the targets would be sports, entertainment, and the adult business. I told him I was very interested in the first two. And ended up getting engaged in the very first two. It's early, DRM stuff, the kind of thing which companies like Easy DRM with Olga, are doing and have been doing since back then. And it was great for protecting streaming content and VOD, not just stream.
And that was Entriq, the company, right?
That company is called Entriq, Entriq. No longer exists.
Which is when we met. Yeah.
We met then. We met then. 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
You and I did a lot of things back then. I was at Entriq, you were at Delta Tray. You guys became, it was interesting, a supplier. We bought from you a customer, we sold to you, and a partner. We teamed up. Remember those trips up to FIFA when we were, convincing FIFA that between the two of us, especially Delta Tray, were able to rebuild, their wonderful FIFA.com website. Remove it from Yahoo, who was not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Also, I remember the Alliance.
The Alliance, NTT.
NTT, Vario, whatever the name, Entriq and us. Yeah. Absolutely.
It worked. That's a great example of where partners really can work well. They don't always. Partnerships are tough to pull off in digital media because things migrate. But if you have people you can trust, and you, for example, and Vinand at NTT, you can make it happen.
True. And what happened after that?
The big thing. So I was unhappy with what I was seeing on the Olympic Games on French TV. And France TV has changed a lot since then. They were in a good way. Laurent Enrique has done some great things over there. But the Olympic Games on France TV were really boring for me, and they were just not showing what I wanted to see. And in fact, at that time, 2003, 2004, no sports were streamed live multinationally, right? It was just non-existent. It was, if it's on TV, you can see it. It was not too bad. And at Entriq, we were in a position, I thought, to go ahead and help the Olympic Games and other major properties bring their content online for the first time. In 2003, there's not, in France in 2006, broadband finally exceeded dial-up, to give you an idea of how early that was. It's only 20 years ago, but it's that generation ago was a lifetime ago. Yeah. So anyway, I rang up the Olympic Committee, literally cold called them, and was put through to a guy called Howard Stupp. He was their head of business and legal affairs. He's retired a couple of years ago. Wonderful guy. Invited me to headquarters, and I explained, let's get your content online, please, so people like me can watch it. I was, kind of selfish, I guess, in a way, or looking at my own best interests, but also the company. So he basically introduced me to a couple of people who He introduced me to Gary Zinkel, who was the head of NBC Olympics, and the largest rights holder, and he introduced me to the head of the EBU, European Broadcasting Union, RAI in Italy, BBC, France TV, ZDF, ARD, Germany, all those. And he said, hey, convince them. Here are the phone numbers. Convince them. And if you can, come back and talk to me. Long story short, NBC and EBU bought the concept at the time to bring the Olympic Games online for Athens 2004. Michael Payne, who got then head of marketing, created the Olympic program, top sponsored program back then, got involved. And eventually we streamed, including Akamai, some great help from Akamai there. We streamed, and EBU especially, and NBC, streamed and did VOD for the Athens Games across 7 broadcasters in 5 countries. And that was the first time, I think, that you had such a major sporting event ever streamed live across many countries. I think that was it. So goes back to the roots. So anyway, and it worked because I was on the plane actually for the men's 1500 meter track and field final, athletics final. So when I landed, I was able to actually use our service to watch VOD of that event, which I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So again, coming back to why do you do things? It's if you're passionate about them, if you like them, if you could do good for yourself and especially other people, go do it. Right.
But I don't know if I'm sure you remember, but the transformational moment, at least for me, compared to not to digital video, which was there before, etc., but what we now call streaming was when we were introduced to NBC Olympics for the Beijing Games. And my experience was being in 30 Rock in the middle of Manhattan, and a guy called Rosenberg, I don't remember, Dan Rosenberg, I always confuse the name, showed me on a laptop 2 videos that were done with Ubuntu Networks. It was the first one that had adaptive stream. And it was the Obama thank you video and a rock concert downstairs. And it was video you can move DFR back and forth. It would adaptively immediately be available. And that was like, whoa, we can do something with this. So it was really a pivotal moment, an epiphany for what then became streaming.
No, I remember. I think I can remember your eyes lighting up. That happened. It was you, me. It was Paul from Delta UK. We all went over to New York. It was Perkins.
Perkins Miller.
It was another interesting thing since then. It's summertime. It's August, I think, and you probably left vacation.
I remember that we got the contract on the night just before the UEFA draw, when there was the Super Cup, I think, in Monaco. We got a call from the US that we got the contract. It was long. And I called you on a bike somewhere. You were painting or fainting. I don't know. It was really it was really transformation. I think it was really transformation because it's the beginning of what we call video streaming today. Was that moment with Microsoft Silverlight, first version of Microsoft Silverlight.
Yeah, that was from Beijing. And it lasted 5 or 6 years, I think. Silverlight got pulled after London, maybe. But with fan engagement and customer retention, I mean, Perkins really knew about that. You knew about that.
For those, to be honest, Perkins Miller was the first one to say, call it this, the second screen companion app.
Yeah,
ages before anybody, because for the Olympics, I mean, we were always saying there's nothing like the Olympics. The complexity of not only the technology of the storytelling, right? Imagine the track and field athletics. Storytelling is already complex. You're in the same stadium, many things happening at the same time. It's difficult to have all the production aligned. Sometimes you have to delay something because it happens at the same time. Imagine when you bring it to the Olympic level, when you have 300 events happening, 64 at the same time very often. So both from the OBS, Olympic Broadcasting System production, that anything that is after that in distribution, bringing the experience of the Olympics to a digital customer is extremely sophisticated and complex.
It's incredible.
Because there's difficult to do one size fits all. I mean, it's a solution for everyone. No, I want to watch athletics. You want to watch cycling, I'm sure. So it's super difficult to create a great Olympic experience, to be honest. And those were really pioneering times, I would say.
Completely. I mean, for those who are watching this video don't know, Carlo goes way back in pioneering. Carlo built the very, very first ever live sports data website in Sweden.
Allegedly.
I've mentioned that to a lot of people. I've never found anybody who's done something before you did.
Yeah.
So you're pioneers. But it's those were good times in Beijing. Fortunately, there weren't a lot of customers who were able to see it. I mean, there were, let's say millions, but now if you've got many tens of millions of concurrent, multiple tens of millions of concurrent users, that's a challenge. And it's not just the complexity of, I think the Summer Olympics has 7,600 unique events, including heats and everything. And our friend Cristiano Coraglia once added all those up, and he told me 7,642, I think.
Yeah. When do you think that the word OTT started to appear, at least in our ecosystem?
Funny, over the top. I mean, it was, I don't know, late noughties, 8, 9, 10 maybe. It certainly wasn't when we started this. Yeah, that was just streaming, VOD.
Because I think OTT arrived with the monetization of it, I guess, because it becomes a service, the subscription part. It's that when it was started to be called OTT, and it meant, I think for us, it was a transition from, okay, we need to provide a streaming platform that streams video and create the discovery experience. So it was discovery, consumption, and the video technology behind. Super complex.
Yeah,
I think it clearly at some point changed to become a business. And that's where we are today with anything that is happening in the media space. I think it's around the business of streaming a lot. I mean, because it's the one that gets then direct monetized, etc.
Completely.
How do you see the transition between those, if you want, initial times and now? What have you observed?
Slow. It was slow. I mean, back. I mean, you look 20 years ago, Athens, you and I were thinking this is going to just boom, take off. But broadcasters were slow. People are slow. Inertia is a big thing. And in entrenched broadcasters, people like NBC aside, even BBC, I think, aside, it takes a long, long time for them to switch over. To understand that this is something which consumers want. George Pine had an article on LinkedIn this morning. George Pine from Bruin Sports Capital, that bought and then sold Delta Trey, talking about the ages of the average viewers of the major sports now. And he said MLB baseball in the U.S. is 57 years old. Average viewer age total. And I remember 10 years ago at a conference talking with the guy who ran MLB.com, Bob Bowman, and he said that back then it was 45, 10 odd years ago. And I asked him, what about the people, what if you look at just digital viewers? He said, oh, it's 35. And George's article this morning said that for Instagram, the average viewer is in, I don't remember the exact number, in the 30s. So, and then, somebody else I was talking to this morning, a guy from Ease Live, was saying that half of their streams users include interactivity. That is consumers are interacting with the streams. Half right now. So if you look at data points, put them together, the average age of a major sporting event is high 50s or low 50s, maybe for basketball in the U.S. leagues. And then you look at the digital side, Instagram, average viewer who interacts with that is in the 30s. And you look at something, a Diva kind of thing or an Ease Live kind of thing, where the average viewer interacts, if they can, with half the viewers interact with the stream. That tells you where the content and where the broadcasters should be going if they want to attract and retain their consumers. Make it interactive, but let them have the choice. Make it interactive.
But one of the things that also changed through these years is at the beginning, remember, we're talking about streaming. And very often people said, but nobody will watch put whatever sport in bracket, no, football on a small screen. Everybody thought streaming is for mobile. But and then, it's not recent, no, but then we start seeing big screen becoming the obvious choice for streaming something, right? So not only because Netflix, I think Netflix educated a lot of people, right? And was a benefit to people like streaming vertical sports, etc. Because it's on the TV, obviously. But not before it was, how does it work? I had to connect something. So more and more the adoption of big screen for streaming is today it's an obvious. Some years ago it was not an obvious, but it clearly changed a bit the perspective. But do you think we are, in terms of where the big screen experience is, are we at the beginning of something like interactive, etc. for sport, or will still have always and continue to have just a piece of video there with no interactivity?
So I think that consumers, will go to the best screen available to them, given where they are, what time it is, what the content is. The best screen may be a mobile phone. But if I'm sitting, I wanted to watch the final of Paris-Nice, the cycling stage race on Sunday. Didn't have a great experience with Eurosport. Ended up watching it on France TV, although they seem to have improved something over the last several days, which is great. But it was not interactive at all. I went to the biggest screen. I had to use my phone so I could see what was going on real time. A friend of mine ended up winning it, actually. So I really wanted to pay attention to what was going. 24-year-old kid won it, who stayed here and I've ridden with. And anyway, won it. So you really want to be able to see what's going on in an event like that. And it's unfortunate that it's not yet easily available on a big screen. I think it'll get there.
But, and the other part of obviously a lot has changed, but the other part is we are in a moment where everything is a bit rebundling, right? In some way. Not saying that vertical sport doesn't, but you see all the aggregation, even the new thing that they announced in the US between ESPN, Fox, and when you rebundle, you put a lot of sports together, and my passion heart goes to they will do a very flat experience because every sport is a bit different. So do you think, and this is something that is valid for avid fans, the people that just want to watch a bit and they don't care. But for the avid fans, the fact that sport end up in this huge platform with a lot of sport where every sport is basically treated almost at the same, and very often the discovery is not the same, the ideal discovery is not the same, the ideal consumption is the same. What do you think will happen? And you think, is there a space then for someone that goes vertical for added fun and create like the best NFL experience, the best NBA experience, etc., the best football experience? I don't know.
I'd love to see the best experience. I mean, continuing on the cycling bit, there was a streaming platform called GCN, Global Cycling Network, which I subscribed to, paid $50 or euros a year, whatever it was, happily. And they just folded themselves into Eurosport Discovery. That's why I finally had to sign up for the Eurosport.
Which is exactly what I'm saying. So it seems that vertical sport is not sustainable.
Yeah, it's the outcome is not, in my opinion, as a fan, it's not as good as it used to be. I mean, I'll give you an example. With the service I used just last year, in fact, just last month, I could pick my language. Right now, I live in France. It's just French. Here you go, French. Yes, I can VPN into another country and work it out, and that's fine. But you're not user friendly if you force people. If you have options available, let the consumer select from those options. And I couldn't do it. So you had a niche service which was really good, and now you've gone into, as you're saying, bundled into a larger one, which today, in my opinion, is not as good. And that's why I ended up watching France TV. Thank you, Entriq, who runs sports over there, on Sunday instead of Eurosport. So anyway, there are challenges, and the bundling thing. Look at pay TV. I mean, back in the 90s, pay TV did just what you just said. Pay TV would bundle. You'd have 300 channels, you watch 5, right? And you paid the big price for the whole. Some people did for all 300 channels. The same thing is happening. We're seeing that cycle coming back again. Pay TV model, bundled model, Eurosport Discovery, fine. Model, the ones in the US have just come together, excluding Peacock. You're going to find people saying, finally, I just turned it on and I paid for it already. I can access it. And that is a user-friendly thing. So you got forces moving in both directions. You're moving away from the niche because you can't do every sport equally, so it's less friendly, but it's much more friendly if I can go there and just, see what I want to see instead of having I subscribe to probably 10 different services right now, which is, I'm sure, there are ones I don't even watch every few months.
Yeah. And how do you see in general, the sport and media industry doing? Do you think we are in a moment where something big will happen and will change? I was thinking obviously big tech, MLS, Apple, etc. It seems big tech is doing things in the US. In Europe, it's still the traditional broadcaster, Sky winning the rights, etc. DAZN being a player. Yeah. Do you think we're in a moment where just continue as is, or at some point because we're for ages saying, look at the music business, look at this, what happened? Sport is still there. I don't know if we are maybe not close to a transformation, but maybe it may happen at some point. Or things will just stay like that.
For me, and you and I have worked in international sports for decades, crossing the borders. TV rights did not cross those borders. You all in a typical country, you'd sell
technically, yeah,
technically as well as
and legally,
both. Yeah. You find the biggest pay operator, biggest free-to-air operator, and biggest commercial broadcaster in a country. They would, you'd be talking to those three. Now, with IP delivery, you do not have that constraint. Now, will rights sellers, drop those barriers? You look at what's happened at the Olympics. They started in 2014, I think it was, doing large multi-territory, not including Asia, but South America, doing large multi-territory deals, right? DAZN does large multi-territory deals. It didn't used to be that way. And so that's a fundamental change which technology has allowed, which is going to make it much easier, I think, for the major players out there, the major, the Amazons, the Apples, to step in. Because they are used to not dealing with borders the same way as broadcasters used to. And they got a lot, some of them have some very, very deep pockets out there. So I think that is going to drive change. And we've been seeing that over the last 10 years. Olympics have done that. And quite successfully, I think.
So this sounds really still a lot of fascinating area to be involved in. So what are you doing now? What are you up to? You're always up to something.
Yeah, I think I'm in probably my 8th different career. And for the last 6 years, I've been involved in early. So I left Delta Trey. I think my sons were going to be leaving university. Leaving home, heading to university. I didn't want to miss those last years. So I was traveling 75% of the time, just like you were traveling about that. It was too much. And so since then, I've been involved in a whole bunch of early stage companies, early stage tech and sports companies. Really, really interesting. Nothing bigger than 20 million in revenue, nothing. Some under $1 million in revenue, and board member, board chair, angel investor, advisor, mentor, and some of them are sports tech companies. Some of them. Wiz Team, the folks in those do the accreditation. We now work with. There were 20 people when I got involved in their board. Now it's 90, and FIFA.
And it's on location, no?
Games on location, just invested in the company.
That's really cool.
So that's a big one. Some very cool data companies, and I know data because you taught me about data early on. A cool Polish company called Respo Vision, Respo.vision. 3D skeleton, one camera, 3D, recreate, heavy use on AI. So a lot of heavy lifting there by AI, but really, really cool stuff. Sport Dynamics came out of Berkeley Skydeck, or was accelerated by Berkeley Skydeck. That's the University of California, Berkeley Accelerator. I donate my time pro bono as a key advisor, mentor, small limited partner. I've invested in a couple of companies there. And also Sports Dynamics, a great, interesting company, also doing football sports data. Worked for the Croatia national team, including for Qatar, and of course Croatia went to the semifinal, third place game. So they're great, interesting tech company, and it's not all sports. Wiz Team, Respo, Ochi is a very cool French company, ochy.io, which does running gait analysis. I use it to help improve your gait and minimize your injuries.
Oh, wow.
And it's very, if you are running, so lots of catch data with a K, interesting understanding taste for consumers and identifying how content tastes can be matched up to consumers. You've got one of my sons works there. And I've put a bit of cash into it.
So you're staying super active at the end.
Busy. So anyway.
enjoy cycling in your beautiful area of Annecy where you are, and talk soon. Thank you, Ciaran.
Thanks, Carl. It's always a pleasure. Lovely to see you. Thanks for inviting me on.